Hello and good day, and welcome to Babylon Game Starter. Today we embark on a new and exciting phase of development for Babylon Game Starter, namely the fact that I am exposing for the first time some of the development process and at the same time giving other devs and designers and artists the opportunity to provide more feedback into the development process for this project, and also, and maybe most importantly, enabling people to take their playgrounds developed with this system and move them into their own hosted environments more easily, as well as to encourage more community collaboration. So let me go ahead then and share what you see here, which is the code spaces, which I am currently using as a development environment. And so this is on GitHub using their remote code spaces. And I have a dev server running already, and I will share that in just a moment. I will point out that here is one of the core files that we have in this configuration-based system. So I started my game development journey quite a while ago during the age of early Doom game playing and Doom mods, and was very fond of the configuration driven types of systems that were around and are still around to a great extent today. So that's where I'm coming from a first principles to espouse as valuable in sorting out the mental space and reducing as much of the complexity as possible, while at the same time providing a great deal of flexibility. So we have all of the files that you may be familiar with if you've tinkered around with Babylon Game Starter before. Don't intend to get into those details today, just to make a fundamental announcement about this shift that's happening. Let me go over here to the game and running in local dev or via local dev on GitHub code spaces, and let's just go see what we have. I'm going to refresh this so you can see the start screen, and you can see we got that Babylon Game Starter start screen. We have ourselves, well, the same thing that you would have if you have already gone to this particular project in a playground, for example. All right, and then if I switch over here, if you're not that familiar with it, if I switch over here, for example, so there's another one of the classics, right? This is going back to the very beginning where I was inspired by that amazing physics character controller. So again, shout out to Cedric, who's really at the early days core inspirational parts of this project for me. So I'll collect that so we can see a little bit unfold here, especially if you're not familiar. So this gives us super jump. If I click on this, I use super jump and I can basically jump higher. Okay, so nothing too out of hand. This is designed from the perspective of teaching. So anything that you see here, everything that you see here, I should say, is education first mindset. If you do have an intention to go commercial with something, this is in fact designed as well to be considerate of your needs. So just by virtue of the fact that we have a clear separate code base over here with running with a Vite kind of development system, and there is an export means by which you can take whatever you're developing and you can export it to a playground, and that's what I'm going to illustrate next. So if I go over here in this and maybe bring it up here a little bit higher, maybe make it a little bit larger, maybe not that large, okay? But if I run this script here, we'll see, and this is built into the project, npm run export playground. and I've already done this, but we'll just do it again so you can see it generates these two copies, or basically copies. In the future, sometimes I might not want to overwrite both copies, so I want to potentially have some arguments to pass into that script that are different than just running the default. But for right now, let me just say here's the two JSON files that were exported, and they are compatible with the playground. So if I were to go over here and download either one of these, they're the same. So if I download those, I've already done this, so I'll have like a copy of it on my system. So I got Playground 1. So if I go over now to the official Babylon Playground, I can then go over and load. I'm going to use the Playground 1 because that's the one I just showed you. So you can see how it works. It's completely compatible, as you can see right there. Same UI. Right, same basic system. Let me go over here maybe to something that doesn't have the background music. Okay, so there we have the same basic UI. Now you can turn these off, obviously, if you're going to want to ship a game. You're not going to want to maybe expose the inspector, but this will also work in local dev. If I go over to the local dev kind of situation, we can also see I expose the inspector to make this, nice to work with. So that's available, and we can just hide that as well. Full screen doesn't really make too much sense. I'm still deciding exactly, should I get rid of this right now in terms of, for local dev or not. So I have a lot of questions that are unanswered, and that's one of the motivating, thoughts behind getting this out there as soon as possible so that we can get some community feedback, see if there's truly any value in this, and take everyone's thoughts, considerations into our process and come up with something that's good for everyone. So let's go ahead and, or at least, most everyone. Let's go over here and perhaps closing the inspector there. And yeah, pretty much, what you would expect if you're already used to playing with the system. You can set up all of the different environments easily. And we are seeing that there is a slight regression right there. I'm noticing with that node material loading, but there are going to be some quirks, and I'm noticing them as I go through this. So this is a little bit of a trial by fire moment as well. So yeah, I'll fix that, because if I go over here and switch to the mansion, there's a little bit, right, difference here in the way that the node materials are handled here locally, loaded in from snippet. So right there, that's ideally what should be showing up here, but I'll get that fixed. So essentially, if I go back to the project, we can see, if I pull this down perhaps, that with this kind of situation, you can be working locally. You can develop on a remote container or code space like I'm doing right here, and be very much kind of in a maybe normal flow, if you consider that a normal flow, which I do, rather than working, primarily like out of a playground. So that's the news for today. I hope that makes some sense as to the value proposition for it. Let me know what you think, and I will be happy to chat. If somebody wants to set aside the time, I will be gladly to find a common time to set aside and chat and find out what you think is important. Take good care.